Welcome to 10-Minute Zuimonki. Dōgen said, "The actions of a person of the way, whether they appear good or bad, are all undertaken with careful consideration, and are not easily understood by ordinary people. Once the priest Eshin ordered that a deer be struck and driven away when it came into the garden to eat the grass. A person standing nearby said, 'Master, you seem lacking in compassion. You begrudge the deer a little grass and trouble a poor animal.' Eshin replied, 'If I had not ordered the deer to be driven away, it would have become accustomed to the company of people. Then, one day, approaching some cruel or thoughtless person without fear, it would surely be killed. That is why I had it driven away.' At first glance, striking and chasing away the deer appeared to be an act devoid of compassion. In reality, however, it arose from a heart filled with kindness." Today's passage is very short, but it touches on an important and sometimes difficult aspect of Buddhist practice. Dōgen begins by saying, "The actions of a person of the way, whether they appear good or bad, are not easily understood by ordinary people." That is a striking statement. Usually we assume that good actions should look good, and bad actions should look bad. We assume that kindness should always appear gentle. We assume that compassion should always feel pleasant. But Dōgen suggests that things are not always so simple. To illustrate this point, he tells a story. A deer wandered into a garden and began eating the grass. The priest Eshin ordered that it be struck and driven away. Someone watching was shocked. He said, "Master, where is your compassion? Why begrudge a poor deer a little grass? Why trouble an innocent animal?" From the observer's perspective, the situation seemed obvious. The deer was harmless. The priest appeared harsh. The deer seemed to deserve sympathy. The priest seemed to deserve criticism. But Eshin explained his reasoning. If the deer became accustomed to people, he said, it would eventually lose its fear. One day it might approach someone less kind than those living at the temple. It might approach a hunter. It might approach a cruel person. And because it no longer feared human beings, it could easily be killed. For that reason, he drove it away. What appeared to be unkindness was actually concern for the deer's future welfare. The action looked harsh. The intention was compassionate. This story invites us to reflect on how easily we judge appearances. We often assume we understand a situation after seeing only a small part of it. We see someone's action and immediately decide whether it was right or wrong. We hear a few words and think we know the whole story. Yet our understanding is usually limited. We see the surface. We do not always see the causes, conditions, and intentions behind an action. This is one reason why Buddhist practice places such emphasis on humility. Humility is not thinking poorly of ourselves. It is recognizing that our perspective is often incomplete. The person criticizing Eshin thought he understood the situation. In reality, he had only seen one moment. Eshin was looking further ahead. He was considering consequences that the observer had not imagined. Now, there is an important point here. Dōgen is not saying that every harsh action is compassionate, nor is he giving us permission to justify harmful behavior by claiming good intentions. That would completely miss the point. History is full of people who caused suffering while insisting they were acting for someone else's benefit. That is not what Dōgen is talking about. The crucial difference lies in self-interest. Eshin gained nothing from chasing away the deer. He was not protecting his own comfort. He was not expressing anger. He was not defending his pride. His concern was entirely for the deer itself. That is what makes the action compassionate. In Buddhism, compassion is not simply being nice. Compassion means acting for the genuine welfare of others. And sometimes genuine welfare is not the same as immediate comfort. Parents understand this. Teachers understand this. Anyone who has cared for another person understands this. Sometimes the easiest thing is not the kindest thing. Sometimes saying yes is easier than saying no. Sometimes avoiding a difficult conversation is easier than having it. Yet, genuine care may require us to do what is difficult rather than what is comfortable. The Buddha himself often challenged his disciples. Zen masters are famous for giving responses that can seem abrupt, confusing, or even severe. Their intention was not to hurt people. Their intention was to awaken them. Of course, such actions require wisdom. Without wisdom, what we call compassion can become mere sentimentality. Without compassion, what we call wisdom can become coldness. The Buddhist path seeks the union of both. A compassionate heart guided by wisdom. A wise mind guided by compassion. The story of the deer reminds us that the two do not always look the way we expect. At the end of the passage, Dōgen is really inviting us to examine our own judgments. How quickly do we decide that someone is right or wrong? How often do we assume we know another person's motivations? How often do we mistake appearances for reality? The truth is that we rarely see the whole picture. And because of that, it is wise to be cautious in our judgments. At the same time, the story asks us another question. When we act compassionately, are we truly concerned with another person's welfare? Or are we merely trying to avoid discomfort, our own or theirs? Sometimes genuine compassion is gentle. Sometimes it is firm. Sometimes it comforts. Sometimes it challenges. The outer form may vary. What matters is the heart from which it comes. The deer saw only someone chasing it away. The observer saw only a harsh action. But Eshin saw something further. He saw a life that might one day be lost. And because he saw that possibility, he acted. Perhaps that is Dōgen's message. Do not judge too quickly. Look deeper. And remember that true compassion is measured not only by how an action appears in the moment, but by the care and wisdom from which it arises. Thank you for listening. Until next time.